Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Jaclyn Angotti, and I'm here to showcase my project with you, Addressing Racism in Outdoor Education, Supporting Student Wellbeing Through Nature Connection. This project is the capstone project of my Master of Education degree with the University of Calgary in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I am also the Education Director of the Southern Alberta chapter of CPAWS, which is the Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society. We are an environmental nonprofit that is dedicated to protecting Canada's public lands and waters. Our chapter also has an award-winning environmental education program that connects Albertans to nature and engages them in conservation. So before I start today, I would just like to take some time to acknowledge the land of where I'm speaking with you from. I'm grateful to be speaking to you today from Treaty 7. My Master of Education program included studies in Blackfoot ways of wellness, which were held throughout the land of the Siksika Sitapi, or the Blackfoot Confederacy, which is comprised of the Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, and Amiskapi Piikani First Nations. And my research project was born in part from the teachings of Blackfoot elders, knowledge keepers, and community members. Not only is Treaty 7 the traditional territories of the Siksika Sitapi, but also the Tsuut'ina First Nation, the Stoney Nakoda, including the Chiniki, Bears Paw, and Wesley First Nations, the Ktunaxa Nation, and the Métis Nation of Alberta. So the map that I've shown today is from a great resource that everyone can check out at native-land.ca. And I saw that this was also acknowledged or shown and utilized at the beginning of the conference, which was exciting to see. So I start my project with the previous research, which shows that recreation in nature bolsters health, well-being, personal development, pro-social and pro-environmental behaviors, and mental restoration. I've shown here on the slide just a few recent articles among many that talk about the important connection between nature and well-being. Many of us probably also intuitively know that nature decreases stress, improves health and well-being, and has many positive impacts on child development and student learning. Now, while everyone needs and belongs in nature, unfortunately, the happy faces that we see in nature are too often primarily white faces. So with a desire for all youth to have equal access to nature, I started a journey to study racial inequality in outdoor education. I quickly learned that previous research lacks a discussion of the inclusion of Black youth, Indigenous youth, and youth of color in relation to participating in outdoor education or supporting their well-being through nature connection. My inquiry extended previous research by conducting a critical review of the literature on outdoor education, student wellness, and social justice to answer 3 research questions. How does cultural identity impact how individuals experience outdoor education, environmental education, and wellness in nature? How does racial inequality impact students' access to and participation in outdoor and environmental education? And importantly, how can educators provide inclusive nature connection activities that support the wellness of all students? To answer my research questions, I conducted a literature review. Using the Academic Search Complete database, I searched for published research using the displayed keywords. I focused on qualitative research that was peer-reviewed and published in academic journals between 2011 and 2021. I included research referring to school-age students from 5 years old to 18 years old. Initially, I excluded research from non-school settings. However, no articles matched all my inclusion criteria. I then broadened the criteria to include non-school informal outdoor education settings, as well as other types of environmental education and research on students' environmental perspectives. I identified themes that emerged from my interpretations. I used a literature matrix that is shown here to systematically summarize the articles. Next, I completed a cross-study synthesis where I analyzed and synthesized commonalities found among the themes that emerged at my reading stage. To conclude my inquiry, I reflected on the synthesized themes and gaps in the literature. I know that my own biases affect the themes that I identified and summarized and the conclusions that I drew. Because I designed my inquiry to help advance equity and inclusion within environmental education, I knew that it was important to practice reflexivity to examine my privilege and biases. I also checked my interpretations with Indigenous classmates and colleagues from people of color communities. Now I'd like to share with you my findings. While current research rarely discusses how cultural identity impacts individuals' experiences in nature, outdoor education, and environmental education, I did affirm that culture can positively impact youth in nature. However, this is an important area for further research. Mainstream outdoor and environmental education erases the experiences and realities of youth from Black, Indigenous, and people of color or BIPOC communities. This provocative statement summarizes the themes that emerged from my reading of the literature and my own experiences and observations as an environmental educator in Alberta, Canada. Now, I'd like to pause here to also acknowledge that I'm utilizing the term BIPOC to facilitate communication about youth impacted by racial inequality. However, every individual, community, and nation are distinct and cannot be grouped. Individuals have unique experiences in nature and society. While I believe that I uncovered inclusive cross-cultural themes in my literature review, I cannot claim that my findings apply to all BIPOC youth. In my inquiry, I showcase why educators must question exclusionary messaging often seen in Western media regarding environmentalism and outdoor recreation. If educators do not question this systemic racism, well-intentioned efforts might still exclude BIPOC youth from outdoor and environmental education. Outdoor education can erase the experiences and realities of BIPOC youth when colonial histories are not taught, when the interconnections between social and environmental issues are ignored, and when the environmental issues that BIPOC youth face in their communities are disregarded. Many BIPOC youth feel unwelcome, unsafe, unprepared, and unimportant in outdoor and environmental education. This may be because of many reasons, including numerous barriers to access outdoor programs, equipment, transportation, and knowledge, and because mainstream outdoor and environmental education are dominated by Eurocentric perspectives of nature and learning, environmental issues more relevant to white people, and white environmental heroes. The systemic racism found within outdoor and environmental education stems from systemic racism within the outdoor recreation industry, the environmental movement, and our education systems. As an example from the mainstream environmental movement, Ugandan climate activist Vanessa Nakate was literally erased by the Associate Press when reporting on the World Economic Forum in Davos. This is unfortunately only one example of many of exclusion from environmentalism and the outdoors. Guided by cross-cultural themes uncovered in my inquiry, educators can address racial inequality in the outdoors to provide inclusive nature connection opportunities that support the well-being of all youth. Youth reap the benefits of nature when they are provided with opportunities to connect to nature, particularly through novel experiences that engage all of their senses. Social interaction during nature experiences with peers and adult mentors helps youth to develop a sense of belonging in the outdoors and provides positive experiences in nature for youth. Nature experiences are particularly impactful when they are rooted in cultural knowledge, language, stories, and histories. And finally, having opportunities to practice environmental action allows youth to see themselves within environmentalism. These cross-cultural themes emerge from my reading of the literature, combined with my own experiences as an environmental educator. If educators strive to provide positive, inclusive outdoor opportunities, we can help youth to develop a sense of belonging, identity, relevance, well-being, a desire to learn, a strong sense of place, and motivation to improve their communities. I would like you to reflect on what we can all be when we are in nature. Take a few seconds to finish this statement for yourself. Now, I'd like to share just a few of the amazing things that youth and ourselves can be when we have the opportunity to belong and be safe in the outdoors. In nature, I am creative, focused, empathetic, energized, reflective, confident, curious, and connected. I can wrap up all these descriptors and so much more in just one word. Well. We are well when we are in nature. All of this wellness can be unlocked for youth and ourselves as educators by breaking down barriers and taking youth outside. I want to thank everyone for joining us today at SEER and for joining in my presentation. I want to thank all my colleagues at CPAWS Southern Alberta that supported me in this project, and especially my colleague Sherry Tarrington for the In Nature I Am slides from the CPAWS Wild Wellness Program. And especially I would like to thank everyone who has shaped and informed my research, particularly BIPOC classmates, teachers, colleagues, and communities. Now, all my references will be available on my SEER booth, and I'd like to wish everyone wild wellness today and for the rest of the conference, and I look forward to our discussions in the various Q&As today. Thank you very much.